Have you ever wondered how the biggest wrestling company in the world simply disappeared? How could a business that once defeated WWE in the ratings for 83 straight weeks suddenly collapse and be sold to its greatest rival? The story of WCW isn't just about wrestling. It's a story of incredible success, shocking mistakes, massive egos, and one of the biggest business failures in entertainment history. What happened behind the scenes changed professional wrestling forever. Welcome back to Ring Insights, the channel where we uncover the greatest stories, hidden truths, and unforgettable moments in professional wrestling history. Today we're diving into one of the most fascinating stories ever told inside the wrestling industry, the death of WCW and how WWE won the legendary Monday Night Wars. During the early 1990s, WWE, then known as the World Wrestling Federation, was going through one of the toughest periods in its history. Business was declining, several major stars had left the company, and fans were looking for something fresh. At the same time, World Championship Wrestling, better known as WCW, was backed by media giant Turner Broadcasting. With billionaire Ted Turner supporting the company, WCW had the financial power to compete directly with Vince McMahon's WWE. Everything changed in 1995 when WCW launched Monday Nitro. Instead of airing on another night, Nitro was scheduled directly against WWE's Monday Night Raw. It was a bold move that officially started what fans now remember as the Monday Night Wars. WCW immediately began making huge moves. The company signed legendary WWE stars like Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, and many others. These weren't just wrestlers. They were some of the biggest names in professional wrestling history. Their arrival gave WCW instant credibility and attracted millions of viewers. Then came one of the greatest storylines wrestling had ever seen. Scott Hall unexpectedly walked into WCW claiming that an invasion was coming. Soon Kevin Nash joined him. Fans genuinely believed WWE was invading WCW because the storyline felt so real. Finally, Hulk Hogan shocked the entire wrestling world by turning heel and joining Hall and Nash to create the New World Order, or simply the NWO. The NWO became a cultural phenomenon. Fans wore black and white shirts everywhere. Merchandise sales exploded. Television ratings reached record highs. WCW suddenly became the hottest wrestling company on the planet. For 83 consecutive weeks, Nitro defeated Raw in the television ratings. Nobody thought WWE could recover. While WCW was dominating, WWE struggled to find its identity. Family-friendly programming was losing popularity, and many believed Vince McMahon's company was finished. But instead of giving up, WWE completely reinvented itself. The company introduced a more mature and unpredictable style that later became known as the Attitude Era. New stars like Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Triple H, Mick Foley, Kane, and The Undertaker became the faces of a new generation. Instead of relying on aging legends, WWE invested in creating fresh superstars who connected with younger audiences. At first, WCW didn't see WWE as a serious threat. After all, Nitro was still winning every Monday night. But behind the scenes, problems were already beginning to grow. One of WCW's biggest issues was giving too much creative control to its biggest stars. Several top wrestlers had contracts allowing them to reject storylines or refuse to lose matches. This made it almost impossible to build new stars because established veterans always protected their own positions. The NWO storyline, while incredibly successful at first, continued for far too long. Instead of ending the story at its peak, WCW kept adding more members until the group became confusing and lost its original impact. What once felt exciting slowly became repetitive. Another major problem was the lack of long-term planning. Storylines often changed at the last minute. Wrestlers disappeared without explanation. Championship titles switched hands for shock value instead of meaningful storytelling. Fans slowly started losing confidence because nothing seemed to matter anymore. Perhaps the biggest mistake happened backstage. Different executives, writers, and wrestlers constantly argued over creative decisions. There was little consistency, and everyone seemed to have a different vision for the company's future. Meanwhile, WWE was becoming stronger every single month. Stone Cold Steve Austin's rivalry with Vince McMahon became one of the greatest storylines in television history. The Rock developed into one of the most charismatic entertainers the business had ever seen. D-Generation X pushed boundaries that attracted younger audiences. Every episode of Raw felt unpredictable. In January 1999, WCW made one of the worst decisions in wrestling history. During Nitro, commentator Tony Schiavone announced that Mick Foley would win the WWE Championship on Raw that same night. He sarcastically suggested that fans should stay with WCW instead. Instead, millions of viewers changed the channel to watch Mick Foley's emotional championship victory. That single decision became one of the defining moments of the Monday Night Wars. It showed that WWE understood emotional storytelling better than its rival. As the years passed, WCW's financial problems became impossible to ignore. The company spent enormous amounts of money on guaranteed contracts for aging stars while failing to create the next generation. Attendance dropped dramatically. Television ratings continued falling, merchandise sales declined. The once unstoppable company was now losing millions of dollars. Even talented younger wrestlers like Chris Jericho, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, and Rey Mysterio often struggled to receive the opportunities they deserved. Many eventually left WCW and joined WWE, where they became some of the biggest stars in wrestling history. Corporate changes made the situation even worse. After the merger that created AOL Time Warner, many executives no longer wanted professional wrestling on their television networks. Without television, WCW had almost no value as a wrestling promotion. In March 2001, the unthinkable happened. Vince McMahon purchased WCW. The company that had once threatened WWE's existence was officially gone. For wrestling fans, it felt like the end of an era. The final episode of Monday Nitro aired on March 26, 2001. In one of the most unforgettable moments in wrestling history, Nitro and Raw aired simultaneously. Vince McMahon appeared on Raw while Shane McMahon appeared on Nitro, creating a symbolic ending to the greatest rivalry professional wrestling had ever seen. Fans expected WWE's invasion storyline to become the biggest angle in wrestling history. Unfortunately, many of WCW's biggest stars remained under expensive Time Warner contracts and never appeared during the storyline. Without names like Goldberg, Sting, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, and Hulk Hogan initially participating, the invasion never reached its full potential. Even so, the purchase completely changed wrestling forever. WWE became the undisputed leader of the industry, enjoying years without major competition. While new promotions would eventually emerge, none immediately challenged WWE on the same level that WCW once had. Looking back today, many wrestling fans still wonder what could have happened if WCW had made different decisions. What if younger talent had been pushed earlier? What if the NWO had ended at the right time? What if backstage politics had been controlled? The answers will never be known, but the lessons remain incredibly important. The Monday Night Wars pushed both companies to become better. WWE created unforgettable stars because WCW forced them to improve. WCW reached incredible heights because competition inspired innovation. Without that rivalry, professional wrestling might never have experienced its greatest boom period. The death of WCW wasn't caused by one mistake. It was the result of years of poor leadership, creative confusion, financial overspending, backstage politics, and an inability to adapt while WWE continued evolving. One company learned from its failures, while the other repeated the same mistakes until it was too late. More than 2 decades later, fans still remember the excitement of switching between Nitro and Raw every Monday night. It was a unique period when anything could happen, shocking debuts became normal, and professional wrestling captured the attention of millions around the world. The story of WCW's rise and fall remains one of the greatest business lessons in sports entertainment history. It proves that no company is too big to fail, and no competitor is ever truly out of the fight if they continue to innovate and connect with their audience. If you enjoyed this documentary and want more deep dives into wrestling's greatest stories, legendary rivalries, and hidden secrets, make sure to subscribe to Ring Insights, leave a like, and let us know in the comments which wrestling story you want us to cover next. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.